Hey folks, Matt Sharp here with another Pacific Angler Friday Fishing Report. We're filming for July 10th, so if it's nowhere near July 10th, click up here. This is a link to all the Friday Fishing Reports. We do it every week, so I probably got something more up to date for you. This week we are going to keep it short and sweet. Why? I'm finally getting out to go fishing. It's been a few weeks because the shop has been so busy, the support has been amazing, but I finally feel like the shop's sort of pointed in the right direction and I am going to get out for some much needed R&R. Jay and I are going to take the lake boat up. I'm going to drag the family out, maybe get my daughter into some fish as well, so that should be fun, but I'm going to keep it short because of that. That said, in the written version of the report this week, we've got a bunch of good stuff. Both Hayden and Brendan headed up to the Skagit on different trips. Hayden did the upper portion, so that's up the crow's nest. Brendan did the lower portion in his boat, and so I'm gonna have some cool details in the written for you there. And though it is still high, there were some fish to be had, but it is still a challenge as we expected with high water. Now, on the lakefront, Jay was out last weekend, has some detailed reports there. I've got a number of reports from customers, sedge hatches, damsel hatches, some pretty cool stuff there. Definitely worth checking out if you're heading out lake fishing. On the saltwater front, big shout out to all those that came out to support in the rally on Monday. We really appreciate everyone that came out. We feel it was a great success and it is going to be a building block to a number of other information rallies as well as events to spotlight what's going on with the management of that fishery. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the fishing. There have been some reports from across the strait that are worth taking note of, and more coho keep trickling in. Now, we're also going to be covering the Vedder as well as the Capilano in the written report. And Aiden, not Hayden, Aiden, different name, we got two of them now, just came back from a really cool trip from Fernie. I haven't heard the report yet, but we're going to put it in the written version for you guys. If you guys are thinking about heading out that way, we should have more information as well as some tips if you're thinking about a trip. And last but not least, we have an urban fishery that isn't talked about much, and that's the stuff you can do from piers and beaches around the Vancouver area in the saltwater. And it isn't going to be a dogfish report. I told Dustin I wouldn't call it a dogfish report, but I think these guys are actually really cool, and it's really accessible, relatively easy, and there's lots of areas to do it. So in the written report, Dustin's gonna have a bunch of details. Him, Alex, and Sarah have been out numerous times after work, before work, on their weekends when they don't want to go too far afield, and the fishing's been good. So he's going to teach you guys how to do that, because it's definitely worth one putting in your arsenal if you want to go out for a couple hours, staying close to the Vancouver area. As always, guys, you want to see more fishing reports like this, consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's get into her. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in with me this week. Full disclosure, I'm filming Tuesday night. I had to do it a little bit earlier than normal because I'm trying to get out of town. So bear with me if these slides are old. As always, check everything before you go fishing because things change. It'll be funny to look back next week and see if I got even remotely right when it comes to the weather. But the news isn't good. When we pull up Vancouver right now, she's still looking like that sort of mix of sun, cloud, a little bit of rain in that 20-degree range. Not bad, but definitely not a beautiful summer weekend for us. That should be okay for fishing, and the silver lining on this, I'll say, crappy weather is that it's keeping things relatively cool, and it's definitely keeping the forests moist, so we hopefully won't see the forest fire issues that we've had over the last little bit. Now, when we pull up the Chilliwack, it is very similar, a little bit more rain, 10 millimeters on Thursday, and then when we roll it over to the weekend again, a little bit of drizzle, mix of sun and rain. So get on out there, it's worth it. Obviously it's summer, it's a good time to be outside. Just bring a packable jacket because you never know what's going to hit you here. When we throw it out to Kamloops, and this is where I'm going, so I'm a little bit more focused on this, it doesn't look all that bad, at least last time I looked at it. We're going to be looking at 24s, 21s, 25s, and some sun and clouds. So I'm excited for that. Should be a good weekend to get out lake fishing. And again, it's not too hot, so the reports I've been getting from the lakes, Jason was out last weekend. He had a really mixed bag of fish moving from sort of the 20s to 25-foot level, eating chronomids, pushing up onto the shoals, chasing around sedge, probably emergers, that he's not quite sure, but there were definitely some traveling sedges moving around in the lake, and they got a few undries as well. Really good fishing overall, so definitely worth still getting out there, and I'm hoping this weekend I get some of the same. We're going to be going up to the Beaver Lake area, I'll just say that much, and doing some hunting around there, so hopefully I'll have some more details for you. Jason's calling Brian tonight. He's gonna have more details on the lake stuff, has some reports on what's going there, as well as some water temperature details, which is something you should start paying attention to. Now things are warming up, it's gonna dictate what's going to be hatching. So check that out in the written version of the report. Now on the Chilliwack front, we talked about that already. The Vedder is still quite high. We have a few people heading out chasing Chinook on the Chilliwack Vedder River. It's worth taking a look, it's worth taking a scout, but the water is darned high. It's going to make access challenging, it's really going to spread things out. It's probably too early, never too early to scout, but probably too early to consistently be hooking fish. This fishery leans more into the back end of the month. Alex has an update on the written there, so tune into that if you're heading out that way. Now, also on the weather when we're looking Chilliwack way, you got to think Skagit. It's more Hope, but in that sort of neck of the woods. Sometimes I'll actually look at stuff down in the States to see how the weather's pushing up there if you really want to geek out. But Hayden was out on the weekend, or actually yesterday, so Monday, and he did the upper portion, the Crow's Neck access. Historically, if you're on foot, it's a little easier up there to get around when the water's high. He hooked a number of fish, nothing to write home about, but put a few on the board as well as a couple bull trout. He said he saw some gray drakes coming off the slightly larger mayflies as well as a few small ones, but nothing major and not a lot of fish rising, which makes sense. Colder water, early season, you're gonna wanna be nymphing, you're gonna wanna be streamer fishing to cover some ground. So Brendan's out as I'm doing this report. So he's gonna be doing portions of the Skagit for the written version with Hayden. So definitely check that out. There's gonna be a bunch of observations there that are pretty up to date. Hopefully this weekend's better for you and hopefully we start seeing the rivers drop down a bit. But again, I think it's probably a couple weeks before we're seeing levels that we're happy with. Now, on the saltwater front, again, we're a long way out, but it says we're going to get 15 knots increasing southeast 25 on Friday and then 15 knots on Saturday. Unfortunately, it's too early right now to get a really good idea, but I do have some good reports. Reports across the strait where you can still catch and release Chinook have been solid. Still on, just like it was, so get across there and enjoy that. More coho reports close to home. They're not all right sort of stacked up at the mouth of the Capilano yet. Guys have been finding them in different areas, looking maybe even a little deeper, looking for tide lines, looking for bait balls, fishing relatively shallow. Now next week, we're gonna have a piece on how to geek out on coho fishing. A whole bunch of techniques, a whole bunch of tricks that our guides use to make this happen. So you'll wanna stay tuned for that next week. But again, check out Jason's saltwater report for more details in the written version of the blog. All right, guys, short and sweet, like I said this week. Again, thanks to everyone that came out to the protest. We'll have more information on that soon. And as always, you want to see more fishing reports like this, consider hitting the like button, hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you next week.